If you told me a few years ago that I'd be sitting here today at the age of 20 telling you that back in my day gaming was a lot more simple and in places more enjoyable, I probably would have believed you.
And bear in mind that this is including all the technological advancements we've had in that period of time. Gaming in some areas, like graphics for one, has moved on leaps and bounds in the last decade or so. But sadly, beauty is only skin deep. There's only so many times you can put lipstick on a pig before people begin to realise that it can't save a mediocre game. And of course there's been some good done, but nowadays gaming comes with so many strings attached that it becomes a little trickier to enjoy what game there is to play. Be it the fall of AAA titles or overinflated budgets that lead to a host of tactics to turn a profit, gaming is not quite what it used to be. But don't worry, we've got 10-15 minutes to talk about it at length. How fun! Everyone wants to be that pioneer. You open the history books and boom, there you go. The guy who did that thing. It was quite important. And so, because not everyone can be that great innovator, we naturally get stopgap gimmicks. A quick break from what we were used to where we're told what the next big thing in gaming is going to be. Some of them actually turn out to be pretty good, while some of them are still being shoved down our throats to this very day.
You know what will make gaming more exciting? Not like fast, edge-of-your-seat gameplay, nah. We can go way further. We can replace buttons with movements. Make you feel like a Jedi.
Oh, motion controls, you were so close to being cool. You still could be. I mean, Wii Motion Plus is pretty good actually. The issue is that most of the motion controlling that goes on is entirely unnecessary and could easily be replaced by a button. No one can really escape this. The standard Wiimote, the PlayStation Move, and holy shit, the Kinect. Games that do take advantage of these are few and far between, and randomly shaking a peripheral or yourself doesn't really feel like the next big innovation. And might I ask, what's wrong with a conventional controller? Are these just too cumbersome to use or some shit like that? You're fiddling around with the building blocks of gaming here and you don't really need to. It's less like reinventing the wheel, more like becoming the wheel. And I don't want to be the wheel, I want to drive this thing. I'm not sure this metaphor works anymore. At least we got some decent pointer controls out of all of this. If everything else surrounding motion controls is set aside for another day, at least we can keep this. Never underestimate the power of the element of surprise. In order to get people excited about something, it's probably a good idea to keep most of the information to yourself. We can get into a debate about internet leaks another day, but right now I want to talk about alpha and beta stages in game development. You know, those steps that need to be taken to ensure that the game is ripe for public release, giving you enough time to iron out bugs and to improve the experience. Before, we might get a few screenshots of the game going through development and we'd have to search hard to find out just what the early stages of some games were like. It's not like that anymore. Early access is everywhere now and it's a very mixed thing. I mean, sure, it's fun to mess around with a game that isn't anywhere near finished, but the game loses momentum because of it. Think of it this way, the early access to alpha and beta stages are just a means to an end. It might help drum up some funding for it and the game may get more popular, but the peak of excitement for your project, something you're very excited about, is an unfinished mess. Therefore, if you stay in beta for too long, which is a growing trend these days, it's very hard to reignite support for your game when it's released properly. And who knows when it will come out of beta? This everlasting beta can get pretty insane. DayZ has been in early access for nearly 2 years, Hawken for nearly 3 years, and Roblox entered its beta stage in 2005 and is still there.
One game made it seem like this was a perfectly reasonable thing to do, and that game was Minecraft. This infatuation with following a game through its alpha and beta stages and quite a number of years, but not every game can be Minecraft. It got a whole load of support from the public, and it was actually pretty good going through development. The problem is that once you've played through a game in its early alpha stage, I find it very hard to care when, many years down the line, it's eventually released. As gaming becomes more and more mainstream, more money is naturally pumped into it, and investors, they want to see a return. There are few better ways of guaranteeing a return than showing them your pre-order figures.
I still remember the days when pre-orders were a resoundingly wholesome thing. You get your money in early, reserving a copy so you don't have to line up outside stores at midnight through fear of missing out. But these days, big companies are producing plenty of copies, enough to still have some left over a few days after the game's launch day. So why would you pre-order a game anymore? Simple, to get the full package. What started as, hey, you can get a new costume for your character, maybe a pin badge, a poster, or some shit like that, soon disintegrated into something far more underhand. Because after all, additional bits of merchandise aren't that much of an incentive. We need to get serious about this and lop off a chunk of the game to keep aside for only people who pre-order the game. Both Alien Isolation and Evolve made huge headlines when they announced that otherwise unavailable parts of the games were to be made obtainable exclusively for people who pre-ordered the game. Those people who need to save up a bit more money to buy it or need more time to think about it, nah, fuck those guys, they can make do with the standard edition. Or maybe a more appropriate name, the 90% version. Or slightly more length but gives more detail, the version that doesn't support this kind of hostility towards the consumer. I'll admit the first one is probably catchier. But maybe pre-order bonuses aren't your thing. You much prefer a more continuous approach. Instead of leaving off a lump of your game to be included as part of a pre-order bonus, how about setting it aside for downloadable content instead? That way we don't have to worry about people getting mad. DLC is a staple part of modern gaming now. The expansion you can take advantage of in order to extend the amount of time you spend playing this game. It'll cost you, but that's okay. It's all in pursuit of finding more to have fun with. But DLC has an inherent problem.
In a perfect world, DLC is released sometime after the game's launch, where the developers have continued to work on it and added like new missions or a new campaign or just something new, an addition or something interesting. But in reality, what they do is they sell you a burger without all the fillings. You have to buy the bacon later.
Or maybe not, maybe you can buy the bacon, These fucking metaphors. Maybe you can buy the DLC the day the game's released. Which I'm sorry, but that on its own is both a bit insulting and quite a big giveaway to what's actually going on. The best example I can give comes from Mass Effect 3, where they brought the game out as normal, but on the very same day released the From Ashes DLC, where, long story short, some kind of important story things happen. It could have easily been a part of the main game, but no! Money is here to be made and you'd be a fool not to take this chance. The issue with DLC is what kind is offered to the player. If it's important, then why wasn't it included in the main release? If it isn't important, then what makes you think that anyone would buy it? The best solution, which sadly isn't practiced very often, is to offer something completely new. Think about Red Dead Redemption and Bioshock Infinite, complete shifts in tone that would never fit within the main game, but still offer up a different and yet equally compelling experience. But that would require extra creativity, which in turn would require more money. And we're here to make great money, not great video games. Let's face it, you've made it this far. There's a lot wrong with the video game industry in the 21st century. Of course, there's still things to enjoy and there have been some sensational games released recently, but gaming now has so much working in the background to squeeze every last drop of money out of an idea, out of a game, out of the consumer's pockets. And I guarantee that quite a lot of the problems are a result of rampant publishers. Publishers nowadays control the very story behind a game and how it's made. The rise of gaming towards the back end of the 20th century and the sheer amount of cash that was generated has led to power-hungry publishers with a huge sway in how gaming is dealt with. They're often a group of people who don't really understand how games function and instead focus on making as much money as possible. Usually through really basic means like having lots of cutscenes and generally sticking to what you know, because they look nice. Which means that a lot of the gripes brought up on this video, and indeed most of the other problems I couldn't fit on here, you know, things like microtransactions and forcing a game out every year, are the result of publishers putting revenue ahead of quality. You want to get creative with something? Oh god, that's a terrible idea. It might not ship in the quantities we want. We might get a low score from Metacritic. We'll just not give that bonus we promised to the developers. We could probably use that low score later to negotiate less favourable terms for them. That sounds like great fun! Publishers are the gun pointed at the heads of the development team. Yes, they'll give them money to play with, but most of the time it'll be to make a game that fits within their business model. I'm not going to name names, but I can certainly edit some images in. Yeah, that'll do. If something goes wrong, they find someone else to take the fall. They milk franchises until its withered reputation crumbles into dust, and often throw out yearly releases with such insanely tight schedules that it's no surprise when the game turns out to be subpar and riddled with bugs. Consumers are treated like statistics, budgets escalate to dizzying heights, but the biggest casualty is the video game industry itself, left to rot in a puddle of its own stagnation.
This has been RabbidLuigi, and if you ever need a good explanation as to why indie games are doing so well nowadays, it's because they offer gaming in such a pure form. Developers free from publishers and the pressure of being a AAA title prove that you can be creative with gaming on a yearly basis. So, before we lament the death of gaming too much, just remember that there is a place where you can enjoy the very best and the very worst that gaming has to offer you out of the shadow of a big name publisher. And its name is Steam Greenlight!
Want to have a say on what I talk about next week? Leave a top 5 suggestion in the comment section below and go follow me on Twitter, where later in the week I'll be compiling the best submissions and setting up a vote over there. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey guys, hope you liked that. Sorry this video is a day late. This kind of topic requires a lot of footage and it took a lot longer than I initially thought to get it all, hence why I'm talking to you on a Monday. You know, maybe it's made someone's Monday a little bit brighter or something. Yeah, maybe. Anyway, if this happens again and you want to stay informed, someone told me that my Twitter and Facebook are pretty good for that. It's a reliable source of info, I tell you.